My meditation for today is on reverence. Reverence for creation and how I orient myself toward creation. And what is it that I do with regards to being in the midst of it all? And the idea of reverence really strikes me as being the just right sort of way to be, the just right orientation. And I contrast that to the idea of worship, of worshiping creation and worshiping the Creator. And I wonder about that sometimes. I wonder about the energy of that and how does that really feel deep down inside of me. Because I feel like in a certain way, I am an expression of creation. So worshiping me is not anything that I really want to do. But there's a reverence for who I am and a respect for who I am that seems to strike just the right note. And I have really come to spend more time with this idea, and it is also the reverence of those around me and the reverence of other beings. And holding them in reverence seems to be really important, that it doesn't seem to violate who they are or the aspect of their creation that might be different than who I am. And that reverence for the differences of creation seems to make more sense. I just feel more comfortable doing that. And the same with the idea of buildings of worship. I know they're really popular and they've been constructed for a really long time. But apart from that, is there another way to think about it? And for me, the answer is yes, there is another way to think about it. And rather than temples of worship or churches of worship, I tend to move toward the idea of monumentalism, creating monuments in reverence to the events of creation that I'm able to recognize and comprehend. And other civilizations have done that in the past, and their monumental structures seem to be more impressive than the temple structures. I mean, those are magnificent, but there's something qualitatively different about a monument to creation as opposed to a temple to creation or an altar to creation. And it seems as though the iconic monumental edifices which celebrate the nature of creation and reality, they seem to be so much more interesting. They incorporate so much more of who we are in that reflection. Though you might think it's a little off topic, I'm going to refer to the pyramids as monuments, a very specific kind of monument with all sorts of things that emphasize the magnificence of creation. I don't think they were built as somewhere to go die. I don't think that. And I don't think they were built as somewhere to go worship. Couldn't get in them. Couldn't walk around them easily. So the monumental aspect of the pyramids seemed to be the most interesting aspect of their being. Now they incorporate a lot of things which I find equally as fascinating. But I think also about the early First Temple worship in the wilderness, the worshiping in the glades. And I wonder, is that really a worship or was it a reverence for creation that occurred in these little glades of woods? I mean, we call it worship, and I think it sort of can be, but in the very essence of it, I don't think it's it's worship in the context that we think of it in this current time. It seems more of a celebration. And in that celebration, it's a gathering around a monument which represents creation and represents the expression of life. And in that representation, in that monumentalism, there is a reverence there which I find to be very comforting. I know it's easy to substitute the words worship for that, but the subtlety of it is I don't think that that's exactly what's going on. I think in my own life, when I've found myself in a church to, quote, worship, I've always felt it slightly off. I mean, the songs are great and the buildings are beautiful and the robes and processions and all of the accoutrements of the church are really impressive, but I've just never really found myself totally committed to that. There's a part of me that which is held back. It's been, a little bit, I want to do that. And I've often wondered why that was, why I couldn't just throw myself into those events, those Sunday processions and all the other stuff. I wondered about it for a long time. And then I happened on the 16 principles that I've talked about last time, principles of Hermeticism, and reverence showed up. And I thought, aha, that's it. That's what's going on. It's a reverential understanding of the nature of reality and my place in reality that seems to make the most sense. That's where the connection is. And I like that. I like it a lot because it allows me to, in my own terms, come to an understanding of the nature of reality and of who I am. So it's what makes my meditations more interesting because, as I've said earlier, the best meditations that I do are the meditations on the experiences that I've had in my life. In other words, I'm meditating on me, on the events of my life. And there's a reverence to that which seems to ring quite true. That I can learn a lot from my own experiences. That my connection to the divine is really important. And the more time I spend on it to try and understand how far out from me it extends is really powerful. In other words, my experiences go beyond who I am in that context. So I really like it. The idea of reverence makes my own meditations on my own experiences seem to make more sense. Because I don't want to worship myself. I'm not worshiping myself or my experiences, but I hold them reverentially. And I keep them, just as Joseph kept his dream. Keep that dream. And that principle seems to be exactly the same. Keeping your experiences, keeping my experiences, holding them close, revering them, and if necessary, make a monument to them so that they can be remembered even more quickly and more accurately, and they have shape and form. So as I think about my own backyard, and particularly in the past, I lived in Texas, and I had a number of monuments in my backyard. They were quite powerful, really, and in times of turmoil, of which in every life there is a lot, I would go out into the yard and stand in the middle of the monument that I had created. And in those starry nights and, being in the presence of the divine and in the magnificence of the cosmos, balance was achieved. Orientation was possible. And so that's what I want to stay with these next days. And I have some ideas for some ornaments that I would consider to be monumental, even though they're really small. And I've got some things planned made out of lapis and stones that will be kind of small monuments to my own experience or the things that I value in this life that I live. So I may send you a picture or send you something on my website about the nature of the things I've created out of these stones as little monuments to the things that have happened to me, and may also be something that can tag the experiences that you've had to help you remember. So soon I hope to have something, but the principle is the most important. To monumentalize our experiences and to remember them and to hold them dear and to extract every ounce of understanding and meaning of them that we can, because there's a lot there. Amen.